Hey everybody, I'm Matt Engfer, the co-founder and CEO of Cubby. We're the self-storage platform that makes growth simple. We make facility management, revenue management, and call center management software for the self-storage industry. Today on our Students of Storage podcast, I'm joined by Gabe Thayn, co-founder of Marketing.Storage, one of the faster growing marketing agencies or unagencies, as you'll hear today, in the self-storage industry. Let's go. Gabe, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
How are you?
Having me. I'm great. I'm excited.
Awesome. Yeah, our teams have worked close together for years now.
Mm-hmm.
We know you well. I thought it'd be great to have you on because I think a lot of people in our industry crave good marketing expertise, definitely that you provide to your clients in spades.
Thank you.
Tell us your story. How did you get into marketing and from, the minute your career started to today?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. I've always been very technical because I love computers and video games and all those different pieces. And where I had started getting more technical is I wanted to create forums for my video games and my community there. And that's how I learned how to do coding and pieces and joined a website company. And then it became very much like, okay, we need to market these websites. So I moved from there to join an agency. I have a popular agency here in Utah. And I joined just as an account manager, really. I didn't know marketing. I just knew stuff about the internet and how to use it. And I was pretty good at learning the different marketing pieces and how that worked, and decided it'd be fun to actually do marketing pieces. And so there was one time I was at Walmart just walking down the aisle, and the head of the paid search team walks by with her cart. She says, "Gabe, are you planning on applying for the PPC technical lead?" And I was like, "Well, no, I'm not on the PPC team. I don't do these things." She kind of looked at me and was like, "I think you should. I'd highly recommend it." And when the lead of the company, of that department, tells you, he's like, "Okay, I guess I'll apply." So no joke, on the way home, my wife and I, we stopped by Barnes & Noble's back when it was a thing. And I literally bought the book AdWords for Dummies. And I read that front to back like 3 times, went to the interview, got the job, and now I do paid search. I do Google Ads. I did that there for a couple of years.
When was that?
This was 20 years ago. 20 years ago.
I'm not trying to get you to age yourself on the podcast here, but
first, I look younger than I actually am. So yeah, it was about 20 years. I've been doing marketing for about 20 years. And that was a really great experience, learning all about Google Ads and the technicalities of it, and working with every type of business type under the sun: e-com, B2B, SaaS, local, national, international. It was a really good experience to kind of get my teeth on what is marketing, primarily, especially on the Google Ads side. Then I wanted to kind of move up, expand my career. And I saw an opportunity, a job post for Extra Space Storage. And this was, probably 14 years ago. And I applied. And what was fun about that is one of the team members there, they knew me from the agency. I'm like, "Oh, Gabe's great." So I kind of had an in that way. And it was a very fledgling small team, just a few people. And they kind of had like a PPC person and an SEO person and kind of the boss man. And they were looking for more PPC support. So I joined that team. At the time, Extra Space was considerably smaller than they are today. They had about 180 facilities, which is still a very large one.
Was it publicly traded at that point?
I think it was. I think it was just at the beginnings of it. And I was over Google Ads, and I had big, fun, fat, healthy budgets, and we were able to do all kinds of wild stuff. And when you spend the kind of money that Extra Space does on their marketing, you get access to the best Google reps and contacts and all those different pieces. And so that was honestly a lot of fun. The owner at the time, or the CEO at the time, Spencer Kirk, he was very much an entrepreneur, and he wanted to invest in the marketing stuff and say, "There's a lot of opportunity here. Let's get technical." So we were part of all the crazy betas that maybe some people have remembered from the old days of how we're going to do Bluetooth mods inside every facility to try to measure store rentals and those things. We had to be a part of all those things. And, there's over a dozen case studies of the work that we did while I was at Extra Space. And I had the opportunity to even speak at Google a handful of times. We ended up writing our own kind of bidding algorithm when Google made some big change to how device bidding worked. And I created that whole piece and used their own platform to deliver it. And they were like, why are you doing this? It's like, because Google Ads isn't made for storage, right? It's made to appease mass industry. And so we need a solution that works just for us. And because of that, they flew me out there and I presented the whole DoubleClick search team, which was a really cool, fun experience and scary. But we did that and I was there for about 5.5, 6 years, if I'm mathing. And, when I left, they had 1,900 locations. And so from 180 to 1,900 and, the team, a big part of that, having the job being fill these up, please, in the most efficient, cost beneficial way. And so I feel really confident saying, we kind of wrote the book on how to do digital marketing for the self-storage space. We have all the data and we did all the tests and all those pieces and we're very successful.
I'm curious about, you mentioned how at the time your CEO was really kind of tech forward and encouraging you to do pilots and try new things. Yeah. That sounds familiar to some of, or it rhymes with some of the experiences that I've had with our more forward-thinking customers. Mm-hmm. What are some examples of like the impact that cultural theme or that attitude created for your marketing team and like the outcomes you were able to deliver?
Definitely, right? I mean, first and foremost, it made it an exciting place to be. It made it so that we were challenging ourselves and we were growing in our careers and as professionals. Mm-hmm. That encouragement, it took a little bit of arm bending, from Google, honestly, to say, do these things, even though, we have to take into account what's good for the business, what's good for our, specific industry and the things that we're trying to do versus what, Google wants to do. And obviously they provide great value, but they have a goal, right? Drive revenue, get clicks. And so with this mentality of, hey, take advantage of pilots, jump into betas, those kind of things, I always super encourage that, but you have to do it with a very specific approach to how you're going to track and measure performance and make sure that it's actually valuable and good for you. We have to oftentimes think not like operators, but more potential tenants and how they would approach whatever feature tool that we're using and how they want to take advantage of it. Because we've had plenty of times where, this alpha was horrible. It lost us a bunch of money. But other times we're like, hey, this was very cool and experimental, and now we're going to take advantage of it. Another, I think, important part of this is when Google's going to give you access to betas and alphas and all these different things, they're telling you what the future is for them and what their focuses are going to be. And so it's not always a great idea to kind of push against the changes that Google wants to enforce, but more, okay, how can we jump on board and utilize this in a way that works for us? Because we're going to continually lose some of the control and the levers that we have. And so knowing that that's going to happen no matter what, is like, okay, how will we future prep to take that on, right? For example, that big bidding algorithm that I wrote, it benefited us for 1.5 years, but then Google shifted and changed and kind of forced our hand to be able to approach bidding in a different way. And so by being early adopters, thinking what we will do to future-proof our business, when Google pulled trigger, we were there. And all of our competition had to then scramble and be like, oh no, they did the thing. So that was hugely beneficial. So take advantage of those opportunities, kind of see what Google's wanting to do. And you can't stop Google from doing the things they want to do. So you have to move in a way that you can kind of go with that flow.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's like, I think that's true, not just with Google, but with any vendor, basically. It's like, you have to develop a good partnership. You got to be willing to try new things. You can't try new things just to try new things. You got to measure and have a system for evaluating how effective those things are. Makes a lot of sense. Cool. I just wanted to double click on that. Let's keep going. Yep. What happened? So 5-6 years at Extra Space, then what?
And then I left. I left kind of with the transition of CEOs. Joe Margolis came in, amazing, super smart, kind man. Yeah, he was a banker. And, when you move from like fast growing, crazy technological to a banker coming in charge and like, hey, we're now $1 billion tech company. Let's kind of not necessarily maintenance mode, but let's get in a position where we can hold on to things. And it felt a little maintenance mode in my mind. And so I was like, maintenance mode equals boring mode. I'm out. And that was hard because honestly, I loved the team. I still really love those guys. Like the two women in charge over there on the marketing side, amazing. So smart, ballers, honestly. Like they're great.
Awesome.
And so it was really hard to leave. But I went to do with some other people who were at Extra Space that kind of transitioned as well to a group that did hotels. And it was 150,000 hotels worldwide. And there's some similarities there, right? It's like we're storing human beings and our length of stay is 1 day. But, still that hyper local kind of control. Another big shift, and I think will be important, maybe we talk about this later, is, hotels you can kind of generate demand versus self-storage. Not so much, it's more capture the demand that exists. But the hotels was cool because in a single day, we would get enough data points that would take Extra Space, even with all their data and all their facilities, it would take them, a week or two to get that level of data. And being, any marketer who isn't just obsessed and plugged into data, it's probably not a great marketer. Data is the engine. And so having that much data was really exciting. And we did that for about a year and a half and was heavily involved in the hotels booking piece of Google Business Profile, which there's actually a brand new data for for self-storage kind of reserve online via GBP. It's kind of shaking things up, which will be interesting. And we're talking with our personal Google rep about getting certain partners we work with integrating that. Anyways, so we did the hotel piece and that was exciting. Did that for about a year and a half. And then was like, you know what? It'd be great to build something for ourselves, right? We've worked at agencies. We have had to use agencies. And transparently, we don't like agencies, right? And so I say, I ended up creating a marketing firm. Because I don't know if we're called an agency, we're a firm.
Right.
And so we started a company called Adigma. It was me and my business partner and friend, Cameron Uri. And Adigma did both marketing for the self-storage space, but also for the non-self-storage space. So back to kind of B2B, e-com, all these different things. And when we created Adigma, it was very intentional that we were not going to be an agency. Like we use that verbiage. Agencies don't communicate. Their reporting's not great. They're checkbox agencies. They're set it and forget it. Those are all the things that we hated when we worked at agencies and things we hated when I'm at Extra Space using agencies. And so Adigma, we even had a term called the Adigma way. It's like, no, we're always going to do the best thing. Mediocrity is not allowed. We have to be the best. And it was cool to grow, honestly, just through referrals or referral growth business. We, in typical fashion, we were amazing at marketing, but we didn't market ourselves that much. It's pretty standard, right? Like, we make websites, but our website stinks. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And we really grew, and it was kind of also one of those things where we could grow our self-storage base where people were like, wait, the Extra Space marketing guys left? Can they help us? I'm like, we'd love to help you for money.
Right.
And so we grew that pretty quickly and ran that for about 5 or 6 years. And then we ended up selling that to a group in the space, a hardware group. So we sold that, and that was a wild and interesting experience. I'd never done something like that before. And it was definitely a learning experience, both good and growth.
Yeah. Growth oriented. I love it.
Right. And then from there, it was just like, you know what? We kind of did some pieces there with that organization that had acquired us. And then we ended up breaking off and creating Marketing.Storage. That said.
And what year was that Marketing.Storage
3 years ago.
created?
It was just about 3 years ago. Next month, it'll be 3 years, which is kind of crazy to say. And even though we've been going for 3 years, there's still some operators that we have that we're working with that we had at Adigma, right? Some groups we're working with for 8 years. As they buy new properties, sell, expand, they just know, hey, Gabe is going to keep us full. So let's keep working. And that has been really awesome. It's been an experience that we really value. And it's kind of hokey. And we're hokey. We're frou-frou. We get emotional. We love it. And we love our responsibility. And we love kind of being an anti-agency, anti-vendor, right? We know there's power in partnership. That's style.
Cool. So tell us about Marketing.Storage. What does it do? And tell us a little bit about the team and services that you provide.
Yeah, for sure. Marketing.Storage is focused on nothing but the self-storage space. By having that level of focus, it's intense to say this, but we are going to say we are the best in the world at self-storage digital marketing. And it's niche enough and we're experienced enough that mandate makes sense and it works. And I believe that we are that. It is that same feelings of when an operator works with us. First of all, we refer to all of our operators that we work with as partners. We don't call them clients because we don't want to be called a vendor, right? There's nuance to it, but it's more like the feeling like, no, we're working on this together, right? And we actually even have some data points that show people who treat us like a vendor have a lower ROI than people who treat us like a partner, right? Because the communication is not as good. We ask very little commitment, but we need some communication, some kind of pieces like that. And so we are focused on the communication. We say internally communication is not allowed to be a problem. So we talk with our operators and the groups we work with all the time. And so we're all about digital marketing piece. And that means the local SEO, getting people to show up in the whole maps pack and everything involved there, managing people's Google business profiles, citations, directories, all of those things, keeping a good active pulse on what Google's wanting from us to display in the maps section. And it's so vital for self-storage operators because we're a hyper-local industry, right? Our world is 3 to 5 mile radius. Maybe expands to 10 to 15 if you're doing RVs and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we do what we call, go ahead.
I want to talk about the other services, but while we're on this topic, give me one or two things that would maybe surprise people about what's required to do a good job of this. Like, just why is it necessary to have someone with their finger on the pulse of this every day?
Great question. It's interesting because there are tools out there that people can use that have some automation elements to it. But to be the best and have your information all the places it needs to be, there are definitely some manual elements where you have to go and you have to make sure that those things are updated and clean. It really is all about kind of what we call NAP, your name, address, and phone number, being accurate across all these different directories, citations, etc. So Google sees, accuracy. I'm going to, I trust this as a source, and so I'm going to increase the rankings for this.
Yeah.
People, oftentimes they'll change a number of like a phone number. That's the number one thing where we see discrepancy. They'll change a phone number and not think, there's probably, if you've been doing this really hard, like there's 75 other places I need to change this. And some tools can help, but you also need to have somebody to know where those things are, and be able to identify that. You have to be careful. There are some tools and things that while you're using them, they're going to distribute your information. It'll be good. But as soon as you cancel, they'll remove it.
Yeah.
We're pretty intense on no, this stuff is yours. This is your property. This is your value that we're creating for you. That's a big piece of the local element. Another element, and I think usually operators say, Gabe, it sounds like you're doing all this stuff for me. What do I need to do? And we say, you need more reviews. Review is going to be one of your most powerful drivers for improving rankings on your GBP, Google Business Profile. And not only get more reviews, but also respond to those reviews, both positive and negative. And that's also somewhere where we get kind of some surprise, even the happy people. It's Google sees that you're providing great value. And then you're saying, I'm so glad to hear you had a good experience. Google likes that. Google likes activity. So,
right. Okay, cool. So that's some good tips on SEO. What other services do you offer?
So that's the local aspect. I want to rank in the maps pack. Then there is what we call kind of organic or website SEO. And that's usually what people are thinking of when I want to be number one on Google when somebody searches self-storage in, Baltimore, as an example. And organic SEO, there's so many pieces to it. It's easy to say, I know SEO. And a lot of people can say they know SEO. But for us, SEO really consists of kind of three elements. And I look at almost like a three-legged stool, where there is the technical aspect of SEO. How is the site built? How is it structured? Does it have the pieces in place so that Google can easily crawl and read this thing? And as Google's getting more advanced and, there's AI prompts and all these things now, there's ways to structure the information and the type of information that you would have so that those can be picked up. I'm also really transparent when we talk about technical SEO, because usually technical SEO is kind of a one and done. Like half of it is like you do it once and you audit every quarter. And, part of why we created our organization is because a lot of groups in this space we found like they do just the technical, which again is kind of one and done, and they charge monthly for it. And we're over here like the audacity, like that's not how it works. Oftentimes we even find in like this industry website providers saying, hey, your website's SEO optimized. And what they're meaning is just the technical SEO aspect. And when I think about that, it's equivalent to, hey, Matt, I'm building your house and your house is going to have a front door and windows. Isn't that exciting? It's like houses have those things. Good websites in the year 2025 have good technical basic SEO, especially if you're using tools and platforms. And interestingly enough, a lot of those providers, they do a good job on technical SEO. We offer a free audit, marketing and website audit to anyone who needs it. And I've done over 400 of them over my career. And most of our space is pretty good on the technical SEO side of things. There are some tweaks and things to adjust, but because most groups use a platform or system, the technical SEO is sorted. And so then when I hear it's getting charged for monthly, I kind of get frustrated.
Right.
So there's the technical piece, right? And then there is kind of the second leg of the stool is the content aspect. Now that Google can read this thing, what are they reading? And you want them to be reading stuff that you want to show up and rank for. And it's not necessarily, just any type of information. What needs to be the foundation of all your SEO is really good keyword research. What terms and things should I be showing up for? As well as every single page has kind of a unique thing it should be ranking for. Some people get this idea is like, we just rank our website. It's like, no, this facility page needs this versus your homepage versus your storage tips and guide. They need a very specific approach. And then we're not just chasing volume. The last thing I want to tell an operator is, hey, we got you 100 visits. And they're like, well, I got no rentals. And it's like, yeah, but 100 visits. And that's what everyone's used to hearing. That's what we call agency talk, right? Because all they care about is rentals. All I care about is rentals, right? So when we're saying what terms and things should we show up for, it's not just high volume, but it's high intent, right? People who are searching for self-storage near me versus food storage as a very extreme example, right? We're not interested in looky-loos. We're interested in tenants. And so that's a big focus on the content piece. And for us, there's core content versus supplemental, and there's the blog element. There's a lot involved in having good content that I think people struggle with, especially as content is always shifting, as Google is getting more and more capable of understanding user value of content, and even having systems where now they're saying, okay, somebody read things on this page and were navigated to this page. That's what we want. That's good. They found what they needed and they transitioned. Google's starting to take that as a ranking factor. And so content is very much the second leg of the SEO stool. And then the third leg is what usually we call outreach, or it's really managing what's called your backlink portfolio. A backlink being another website pointing to your website.
Right.
And because of that, if they're authoritative and high ranking and kind of in a similar vein as to what you're trying to provide, Google looks at that as authoritative and increases your rankings or improves your rankings. Backlinks, it's interesting. Backlinks are easy to do wrong and hard to do right. Yeah. And a lot of groups can just, jump on Upwork and spend $10 and get 5,000 backlinks and blacklist my website. It's like, I don't think that's what we're going for, right? Like there's a very intentional way to capture backlinks. For us as a hyper-local industry, local links are really important. And so we actually have members of our team whose sole job is to communicate with the businesses around the facilities that we support and be like, hey, let's do like a link swap. Let's do this thing. And honestly, that's the kind of boots on the ground work that I don't think anyone in the space is trying to do. It's an important factor for us.
Can you leave us with a little cheat code? Who should we call first? Should we call the flower shop or the realtor or what the divorce attorney?
it's interesting. Like if you want to get like intense, it's about, those are all great options that you're describing. Like the funeral home.
Yeah.
That's a little dark, which is okay.
Yeah.
And, but it's also, if you're really trying to double down on driving the value, it's looking at their websites and what their authority is and how well established they are. Because if you can get a backlink from them, that's going to serve you better. But you're right on the right track, right? It's like people who provide services and value to their local community. Moving is a big deal, right? Moving is 25, 30% of the kind of driving force behind if somebody needs self-storage or not. Then you hit on the others, divorce and those kind of things. But even, pest control or, local services, it is kind of understanding the value of their website and its authority. And then what's fun is if you can do it well, you can communicate like this helps us both. Like it's a good experience, right? Because we're focusing so hard on authority and relevance, and that's, we would point to you, that's going to help you, and vice versa.
Yeah,
that's a big piece.
All these local industries are going through the same thing, trying to figure out the same problem. So it makes sense that they would be. It's a kind of a win-win. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's cool because there are some, like, as AI is getting cooler and cooler, and we utilize and we're building some really fancy, fun tools. We still are strong believers like, no, the value is in like human plus machine provides the best, experience, because when you're just reaching out to people randomly, authenticity matters. Versus like, I don't know who this person is. I know I will never answer any call from anyone who isn't in my contact list already. So there's a different style and approach that you have to take.
Yeah.
But yeah, that backlink piece is really important. And so that's kind of the three-legged stool of SEO. And I use that analogy because on a three-legged stool, if you're missing a leg, you're kind of on your butt. And so they're all important. They all provide a lot of value.
Cool.
Yeah. And then we do Google Ads. That's the third.
Okay. Yeah. That's a time-consuming portion of it, right? Like that's a lot of your focus is there.
Yeah. We call those three, we call them the core three. And Google Ads is, our primary recommendation for paid media. And we also do Facebook and Instagram and those kind of things. But honestly, we don't recommend every operator take advantage of paid social because of the cost needs there, as well as the Facebook algorithm is night and day different from the Google Ads algorithm in regards to what it needs to be successful and thrive. And oftentimes our industry, people don't necessarily think about how data starved we are. We're a low volume, high value product. And so oftentimes if you're just a single facility, sub 100 units, you'll never get data in your life to be able to make a good optimization decision based off of, I need 30 rentals in a 30-day period to be statistically significant. And so, Google requires that. Facebook needs even more than that. Right. And so that's one of the big struggles I think that this industry faces that we work hard to try to resolve.
Cool. Then let's talk about how to generate rentals. Let's nerd out a little bit here. And I want you to give away all of your secret sauce exclusively on this podcast.
Yes, do it. Exclusively.
But let's dive in. What order should we tackle this in? Like, you tell me.
Yeah, I think the best way to start is honestly with measurement.
Okay.
Because we talked about SEO, local SEO, and Google Ads and paid search, and every agency and their dog does that and can say they do that. And so while I do have my credentials and all these things, I'm like, I spent over $100 million on Google Ads in my career for self-storage. I've worked with over 3,000 facilities. Like that means things, but also everyone and their dog can be like, well, I'm really good at SEO too. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think the big differentiator and where it all starts is with measurement and tracking and analytics. Kind of near the beginning of our conversation, I said, if you're a marketer and you're not a data person, then you're not a marketer. You're not a good marketer. Right. Rather, you're hurting more than helping. And so it really comes down to how well can you track the most important parts of your business, which for us is rentals, right? And then secondary, it's like, okay, some groups have reservations, and then there's sales calls. The harder things to measure and track is like walk-ins and those kind of things. There's no such thing as perfect attribution in our space, but the way we've set things up, where depending which platform you're on, the majority of platforms we work with were like, yeah, we can get you like 80, 83% levels of attribution and feel really accurate and confident about that we're driving an ROI. Certain platforms, I mean, very bluntly, Cubby, like, I'll call it out, right? Like today, Cubby right now, and kind of our great relationship and partnership that we have, we're able to get to like 95, 96 levels of attribution because we have click to lease, where we can say, you spent money here on Google Ads or SEO or local SEO, and this tenant came. And not just a tenant, but it's like, no, it's Billy, and he's in unit 23A, and he's at this facility, and he pays you this much a month. This is how many payments he's made, and this is how much you spent to get him, and this is your ROI, like true ROI, in the bank, out the bank. Like we measure it. And that's the golden goose of the space. Almost nobody has that, like the big REITs, Extra Space and things do, but that's difficult. And so it's really important to be able to measure that stuff, because the people with the best data have the best marketing.
Pretend I'm, an owner of a small portfolio of storage facilities, and I have all the chops to make that reality, come true for myself as an operator in-house, let's just say.
Sure.
What needs to be true technically for me to be able to attain the level of attribution insight that you're describing here?
You have to, great question, because it's not easy. And honestly, the investment from 85% attribution to like that 92, 93% attribution, it's a 4-figure investment, depending, right? Like, that juice may not be worth that squeeze for an individual. But if that was something you were really ambitious and wanted to try to do, it starts with being able to capture your website traffic and visitors, and things like Google Analytics actually make that pretty easy on the website side. Where things get more difficult is on being able to track and measure accurately on the marketing side, and be able to set things up so that you're tracking rentals, and you have a really good call tracking solution to identify the differences between sales calls and missed calls and service calls, and the intent of the caller, and if they actually turn into something. There's means of understanding people's interactions with Google Business Profile, and what does it mean when somebody clicks on the website link versus get directions, and all these things. Like the marketing part of it is very hard, and that's what we've kind of built our whole thing off. It was like, at the end of the day, our whole thing is taking the guesswork out of marketing. But anyway, so that has to be true. You have to be able to track your stuff accurately from the website and your marketing. And then the other hard part, outside of working with groups like you, like Cubby, is you have to be able to get FMS or kind of that tenant information. And then you have to have the chops to be able to tie that information together, which again is not easy. What's frustrating about our space, and I truly believe this, our space, our industry, the storage industry, is probably 8 to 12 years behind technologically from where we could be. And it is driven primarily from the biggest players in the space wanting to hold things really close to the vest and not share and not play. And, there's parts of it that are understandable, right? They're a business and they're trying to make money and those kind of things. It kind of shy away from that. We're like, no, operator, we want to help operator. And honestly, Matt, when you and I met a couple of years ago, like that's where I was like, oh no, I think are Matt and I best friends? Right? It's like the operational focus, right? Where it's like, we want to help a single facility sub 50 unit, and we want to help 500 facility, and we want to give them the same power. And so that's what this operator has to do. If he or she wants to capture that level of accuracy and data, it's like, no, you have to be able to connect the FMS. That's going to be your biggest roadblock, most likely. You have to do marketing really well. That's your second hardest thing, and it's damn hard. And then, website traffic, that's maybe the easier piece. And then you have to get the call stuff too. Like there's so many pieces that integrate and have to work together. And then on top of that, as these different platforms make updates and tweaks and how they measure performance, things get crazy. So it's quite the venture to do that. Yeah,
totally. It makes sense that there's plenty of opportunity for people like you to help with that, because it's just a tremendous amount of work to do. Cool. Okay, so that's how you string up, a good attribution and analytics model. How do you influence the outcomes once you have that in place? What happens?
Yeah. I mean, one of the fastest, easiest things you can make decisions on once you have that level of data is where should I spend my money and where should I spend less of my money, or turn it off altogether, right? It also can give you insights into which of my unit types is more valuable or not more valuable. And, should I turn this 10 by 10 that I have into a 5 by 5, or should I build more of this? When I'm looking at acquiring new facilities, they already have a lot of this in place. And I know based on my data, those are going to rent more quickly, and I could adjust my time to fill up notice to the bank, if that's the term. So I'm not a real estate guy. So that's one of the big elements as well. But eventually, I hope not, but maybe, Google wants to make it so that everybody just has the same toolbox. And you can't open the toolbox. It's their toolbox. And you just kind of like, I want this many rentals and I'll pay this much. The end.
Yep.
Basically, they want to do that. And people like me will have already found cool other solutions. But the difference is being able to take if you can accurately track data like we've described, and then feed that back into the ad platforms. Then again, if you have this toolbox and I have this toolbox and I don't have the attribution that you do, then your data is going to be better and you will perform better. That's just all there is to it. You'll get more volume at lower costs. And so the game, if you want to call it that, is eventually the kings of the data, which makes sense, right? And that's why we do marketing, but we're data folks, right? Like that's kind of the whole structure. It's like, no, data, that's the answer.
Basically, it just allows you to make smarter investments, take a look at those investments, refine it again, and just get more and more efficient with every dollar you spend, whether that's on paid media or investment in your infrastructure, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big deal.
Switching gears here for a second.
Sure.
You do this for facilities all over the country.
And internationally.
Yeah. And you have you have a lot of clients today. My question for you is like, what's the difference between operator A and operator B, who are both your clients, and the value that they extract from your relationship? How can I, as a customer of Marketing.Storage or any marketing partner, get more from you? And how do I maximize the value that I get out of that relationship? And how do I make sure that I'm the customer that you say is the most successful customer that you have,
Yeah. It's funny. It's almost, is it conceited to say, do what we say? It kind of goes back to the whole vendor partnership situation, right? Like it's interesting. We're having some fun conversations recently where, we were working with a partner. That's how we refer to the people we work with. And, it was kind of like a time of year to change. And in typical vendor style, we're just going to try a new one. But things are going well, right? Like you're really happy. Oh yeah, you guys are great. But it's time to change. Let's see what these guys can do. And now we're having conversations 2 years later where they're like, it was hell.
Yeah.
Help us. And so we kind of refer to that as like, we got vendored, what our approach is going to be is we want to, every single time, if it's Matt's big storage house and you're needing help, I literally, when we have the conversation, when we begin everything, we say, okay, I'm Matt, but I know what I know about marketing and what needs to happen for my facility to be successful. That's what we're going to do. And our services are fluid in that way. I kind of talked about like backlinks versus content. If a facility needs more content, we'll take some of our allocated budget of backlinks and kind of put towards content. What is the next best thing for the facility? And so it really is, let's partner together. We don't know necessarily everything about marketing in your space. You're going to have more insights into your market and your tenants and what that looks like for you. Share that with us. And that's why for us, it's like, no, we want to have monthly calls, right? Like this is important. It's not hey, don't bother us. We're doing things. It's like, you need to communicate with us the types of tenants that you work with and that you see, because we can tailor our efforts towards that. And so it is high communication. That's the biggest piece that I would say. It's like, let's communicate and get on the same page. We'll own the strategies, we'll direct. And every time we tell you we want to do something or you should do something, we're going to back it up with, and this is why. if you hear trust the process, run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't trust the process, trust the data. We'll explain it and show why. And then when we do the thing and show you its results, then you'll be able to say if that was good or not. And we'll probably tell you it's like, oh, that test didn't work as much as we wanted, but here's opportunity. Like transparency just straight up is the thing.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So like if I'm a high quality partner of yours that gets a lot of value from our relationship, maybe, I notice that, hey, all of a sudden 40% of my facility is filled with businesses or something like that. That might be something that I'm sharing with you on a regular basis.
Big time.
Trends like that, just diving into the data, being curious and invested in my own marketing as opposed to like farm it out to Gabe and team, like actually view yourself as an extension of that team and how can I help them? What data could I provide them that would allow them to, do a little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's interesting. There have been some instances, and I think we even have some partners like this today, where I swear it feels like we care more about their operation and its success than they do. And some of the groups, especially smaller operators, they are entrepreneurs, right? So like, well, I have multifamily, I have this and that, and storage is just a piece.
Yep.
And I'm coming to you because you guys are obsessed with storage, and you'll be obsessed with this, and like you're right. And it's like, oh no, I think we care more about your facilities than you do because we're so like, oh no, like we had a rough month, like let's do this, let's try this, and here's our strategy. And like, sure. It's like, come on,
Yeah. That's what we see is the people who view marketing talent outside of their organization as a vendor, that they just toss the ball to them and say, run with it, tend across the board, not just on marketing, but it's a data point that says, oh, I bet you that the dollar per square foot that this person achieves compared to the more invested operator who feels a lot of ownership over their marketing and views their marketing agency or partners as an extension of their own team, they just get better results. They get more move-ins. They get, so I always try to encourage our customers to take ownership there.
Because if you're going to throw it over the fence, that's what your vendor is going to do. You're going to throw over the fence to some automated solution. They're not going to communicate well, right? They're
not going to feel the accountability.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing on the technology side. I always say pressure makes diamonds. So like if you can feel the pressure from your customer, you're going to stay in the office that extra hour to get that report done or whatever it is. Right. Cool. Well, I think we have a lot of mutual customers. We get a lot of good feedback from them about the experience they're having with you. You can see the results in the move-ins and the rentals. It's been great working with you, and hopefully this was helpful for everyone listening. And thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for letting you do this. And honestly, our relationship has been awesome, right? Like it's I can't express how good it feels to be able to say, like, when somebody moves on to Cubby, like let me say it this way. When we get a new partner and I say they're on Cubby, literally members of the team who are going to be working on the account sigh of like relief. I'm like, great, this is awesome.
Yeah.
We'll have the best tracking and the websites are awesome. It's really been a fabulous experience. So yeah.
Cool. Well, you guys are growing like crazy. We see it in our customer base and across the industry. Keep it up. And I guess I'll see you in Vegas probably.
Yeah. Yeah, we should,
All right.
we should hit up Hachi.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Students of Storage. Links to any resources mentioned in the episode can be found in the show notes. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a 5-star review and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Thanks and have a good one.